All right, guys, it is Tuesday evening. Awesome day of coaching. Been at the gym all day, and I love every second of it. So I want to give you guys a few minutes about scaling, substituting, and making the coaches work for you, right? So I've heard Ryan talk about this a lot. The fittest person is not necessarily the person in the class that comes in and can hit the highest score on the leaderboard every single day. All right. What we're aiming towards, what we want you guys to work towards is longevity, movement quality, obviously increasing your work capacity, being able to do a little bit more than you were able to before. But let's talk about scaling, substituting, and letting the coaches help you, right? So there are a ton of things that we do in here. Pressing, deadlifting, squatting, rowing, jumping, climbing, whole nine, right? Chances are that we're probably going to find a movement that may or may not agree with you. And there's two routes you can take. Route number one is you go, that movement just isn't working all that well for me. And you just kind of hammer through it. That's probably not a great road to go down. Road number two is you say, okay, hey, this movement doesn't quite agree with me. Hey, Coach Ryan. Hey, Coach Sarah. Is there a way I can modify this movement? Is there a way I can do this slightly different so I can still get the intended stimulus from this movement, but not have to go home and not train for the next 3 days, right? A great example of that is front rack position. You may see people from time to time using straps, right? I allow and I encourage members that if that front rack position really, really beats up on them, as if they need to, is they can use straps. They can use a tool to essentially substitute that front rack position with the straps, right? It allows them to still front squat, but it takes a little bit of stress and pressure off the wrist, right? So then they can come in and train the next day. Hey, John, doing that kipping pull-up is just putting a lot of pressure, a lot of issue in my shoulder. Great. How about we don't do that kipping pull-up, right? So we know that down the road, anytime we have kipping pull-ups, we go strict, we go ring rows. We just know that for athlete Tom, that kipping pull-up probably isn't going to be the best bet. You have a lot of coaches that love what they do. You have a lot of coaches that are really good at what we do, but none of our coaches are mind readers. I will tell you that I personally like helping people figure out what to do if that workout doesn't perfectly fit them, right? So I was talking to a gentleman today, right? We changed some things in the conditioning, right? So instead of doing push, press, and burpees, we did the run nice and hard. We did some kettlebell swings and we did some box jumps, right? So we gave his upper body a breather instead of him saying, well, let me just try it and see how it goes, and it doesn't go all that well, right? So your coaches love what they do. Your coaches want to help you guys improve. And if we offer scaling or substituting, it's not because we want to slow you down or we want to hold you back. It's because we're thinking about your longevity. How about where do you want to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years? I've been doing this stuff for 7 years. Knock on wood, I feel amazing, no issues. But you know what? Down the road, I may end up with something. Maybe my knee starts getting a little funky, the hip gets a little funky. I need to be what we used to call CrossFit mature. We're just going to call it smart about how I react to that. If I go, you know what? That hip's been really bothering me. Let me just crush another 3 months worth of squatting and then maybe I'll think about it. Or I say, hey, you know what? It's not going to be the best thing ever, but I'm not going to squat for a month and I let my hip get better and then I can carry on, right? So it's just thinking down the road. And again, the coach's job is to help you guys with that. So if you have something going on, hey, maybe it's just not a big issue. Maybe you slept funny on your arm the night prior and the day's workout has push press like today. You tell the coach, hey, look, I don't know, my shoulder's just feeling a little funky. I slept on it. The coach is going to change it for you in a heartbeat, but we can't do that for you if two things. Number one, if you don't let us know. And number two, if you're not open to scaling or substituting. So again, check the ego. Think about where do I want to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? So there's no shame in your game. The vast majority of you guys should be scaling and substituting on a pretty regular basis. If you guys don't know, I write the programming for the top 10% of the gym, right? And then the coach's job is to help scale everything below that, right? So that means 90% of you guys should be doing these workouts scaled or substituted, and that's perfectly fine. Checking the ego a little bit and saying, hey, look, I'm not going to do all these workouts as prescribed. Every once in a while, I find one that fits me really well, then awesome. But again, no shame in your game. You should be scaling and substituting and communicating with your coaches. We love what we do. There's nothing more we'd rather do than help you guys find a good scale, a good substitute. And if something's not feeling all that great, let us know. Let us give you some rehab, prehab stuff to help make it feel better. Have a great night, and I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.